John Black, Super Chemist. We're going to view this video. It's the Irish Independent channel from YouTube. You can see the name right here.
Alia, you converted to Islam at the age of 18, and you talked about having contact with the London bombers.
Yeah, that's right.
How many times did you meet them?
I met them more than 20 times.
And where did you meet them?
I met them in London, and they've been in Dublin as well when I was there, and in Limerick.
This video is from 7 years ago.
And you talked about there being a big presence of radical extremists in Ireland.
Yeah, there's at least 100 to 150, max, minimum like 150 here.
And how do you know this?
Because I met a couple of them when they used to come to a house in Dublin. They spoke about it, stuff like that.
And what kind of things did they talk about?
They just talked about people that, about targeting, about what was happening, about the infidel, like they wanted to kill basically the non-Muslims.
And they thought that Ireland was a soft place to hide?
Yeah, they thought Ireland was a soft touch because, the border security, especially in Belfast, it's very easy for anyone to operate from England into Republic of Ireland, because there's no checks or anything on the border.
And do you think Ireland is a threat, or do you think that they will use it as a springboard to get into the UK to carry out attacks?
I don't know, I know that they will eventually, I'm sure that they will attack Ireland, because they do know Irish government will, eventually shut down more on them.
And do you think enough is being done by the government and the authorities?
No, I think they need to take a lot more actions on what they are doing.
Ma'am, I'll put the question to you. Do you think that is there enough being done by the authorities to stop this kind of thing happening here?
I don't think so. As I've said before, that the government has said that 20 individuals are being monitored. I would like to know whether the government is aware that Anjum Chaudhry, Khalid Khurram and others have been in Ireland and have been spreading the cancerous ideology. And as far as I know, they are not aware of that. And that is a very, very big issue. It's a big disappointment, and something that tells us that the government is really not on top of this issue, and the government really needs to do a lot more than it is doing.
In a riot in the city's
1 year ago.
34 people were arrested in a riot in the city's historic center overnight. Anti-immigrant protesters fought with police after a stabbing incident involving 3 young children. Remy Inocencia reports on the violence apparently fueled by larger concerns about immigration.
Hundreds of police officers faced down a swarm of rioters in central Dublin. The mob of about 100 setting fire to buses and police vehicles and looting more than a dozen businesses. Ireland's police commissioner called the violence disgraceful and said far-right groups were responsible.
We have a complete lunatic hooligan faction driven by far-right ideology.
Keep in mind, far-right usually means just someone in the center. Or it means they're not even on the right, they're just crazy. Well, it's one or the other, I don't know.
Sparking the chaos, several stabbings earlier in the day of 3 young children and a woman who tried to stop their attacker.
It was horrendous, and the children screaming and the women screaming.
The sole person of interest, a man in his 40s, an Irish national only for about half that time. The knifings unleashed rising anti-immigration anger. This year, Ireland marked record immigration, granting entry to more than 100,000 foreigners. The same anti-immigration wave delivered a surprise landslide win this week for anti-Islam politician Geert Wilders in the Netherlands.
People expect our agenda of hope, tougher asylum and immigration policy.
Wilders is known as the Dutch Donald Trump, as much for his populist policies as for his hair. He's called the Quran a fascist book and has been the target of death threats. As police in Dublin prepare for a possible second night of violence, the Prime Minister said these scenes should be condemned by all those who believe in the rule of law and democracy.
Ireland was once a bastion of Christianity and Christian values, Catholicism in particular, but it was decided recently that all of that was old hat and needed to be done away with. So we decided to embrace the wonders of multiculturalism. And as part of that glorious package, we decided to embrace the religion of peace, Islam. And how's that going for us? Ireland's never been more safe and serene. Wait a minute, what's this? In 2018, an Egyptian Muslim man called Mohammed Moray murdered a Japanese man in Dundalk whilst shouting Allahu Akbar. But he was deemed just to be mentally unwell. Nothing to do with Islam. Then in 2022, Iraqi Muslim immigrant Yusuf Palani murdered 2 homosexual men in Sligo and gouged the eye out of a third. Nothing to do with the religion of peace, he just didn't like gay people. In 2023, an Algerian Muslim man, Riyad Bouchakar, viciously stabbed and almost murdered 3 little girls and their teacher in Dublin. Nothing to do with the religion of peace, he was just mentally unwell. And now just a few days ago, a Catholic priest was stabbed while sitting in his car by a radicalized Muslim teenager. But that's just because of the internet. He was watching the wrong videos. Nothing to do with the religion of peace. I often ask myself, how did we ever survive here in Ireland before we had the joys of the religion of peace?
Who is going to be moving in their place? So I've heard from this reliable source that there are going to be 120 Syrians moving in here in the next couple of, I don't know if it's going to be days or weeks. So Syria...
Keep in mind, they just got rid of 1,000. This is a tiny town. They only have 1,000 people in this town. They just got rid of 1,000 immigrants, illegal aliens that came in there that were Ukrainian. Now they're going to try to replace them with Muslims, Syrians.
Syria being a predominantly Muslim country. And this is concerning, I think, for, well, let me just tell you, the chairman of Bravey Community Council have stated that, he stated this on RT Radio 1 some months ago, that the population of Bravey is about 1,000 people. Now at its height here, from the iPass Centre and the Woods Hotel here, there were nearly 1,000 people we were housing. International protection applicants, asylum seekers, you know, economic migrants, illegal migrants, whatever you want to call them. Between that and the refugees, there were nearly 1,000 people staying here. So essentially doubling the population of our village. And now that they've kicked out the Ukrainians, who they don't seem to care about anymore, and they're going to repopulate the place with, well, who? That's the question. Based on this latest information, that's 120 Muslim Syrians moving in. It's not beyond the realms of possibility to think that this place here could be repopulated with up to 1,000 Muslim migrants.
Because they just already did it with the Ukrainians. Now the Ukrainians are someone else's. You know, it's not like they deported them. They just move them around the country, move them around.
Which, if it happens, would make Bravey on the verge of becoming a predominantly Muslim community. So I'd like to ask the people of Bravey, are you happy with this? Just to lead on from that, another rumour, now this is a rumour, but I've heard it from a couple of people over the last few weeks, that the owners of Bravey House here are proposing to build a mosque on the grounds here. For local people, you know, up the Cottage Road on the left, that a lot of land up there is owned by Bravey House. Now, it's not being referred to as a mosque, it's been referred to as an Islamic cultural or community centre. For all intents and purposes, this is a mosque. And this would be the third mosque we have between Castlebar and Bravey, because, as you probably know, there are already 2 mosques in Castlebar. So this would be the third and probably the biggest if it goes ahead. Now, I, for one, am not happy with this. Let me know what you think. Are you happy with this?
I think that there's just as many mosques now as there are Christian churches in the whole of UK, meaning that includes all those little islands around England.
So we probably won't hear too much about this in the coming weeks because, as you know, we're getting close to an election. And we know we're getting close to an election because we can hear the government, through their mainstream media propagandists, coming out with all the sound bites that they think people want to hear. Obviously, people are not happy with the amount of money that we've spent looking after asylum seekers and refugees over the last couple of years, especially when local people around Ireland can't make ends meet. But we can see with certain articles, let me just quote from this article here, that says international protection applicants who are working could see their supports means tested. And as well, international protection applicants may have to pay a contribution towards accommodation costs if working. This language is obviously very non-committal, and in all likelihood this will probably never happen, you know. The article finishes by saying Irish people know the value that migration brings to the economy. Do you know the value that migration brings to the economy?
Yeah, well, if you have 10 houses and you had 10 Irishmen, you know, your rent is going to be whatever it is, X amount. But if you have 10 houses and you have 10 Irishmen, and you have 10 illegal aliens, right, because you doubled the population. Now the rent is going to skyrocket because they know that if the Irish, they'll kick the Irish out, give it to the illegal alien because the government pays them. So they don't have to worry. They can jack up the rent as much as they want. And if you don't want to pay it, they got other people to do it now because that's what supply and demand is. See, it's the same way with the wages. So what's going to happen to your wages? You have 10 jobs, you have 10 Irishmen. So you get X amount of money per. Now you have 20 people. What do you think these people that own businesses and own, apartment buildings or whatever, houses that rent out, what do you think they're going to do when they know that they got twice as many people than they got houses, twice as many workers as they got jobs? They're going to start paying them less and charging them more. Paying them less for work, charging them more for their rent. That's what happens. See, these people, these liberals that are evil people, what they do is they push people down, they kick them and spit in their face while they go to the next person and they help them up. They give them money, give them everything in the world and say, look at how good I am, I'm a good person. They don't tell you, though, how they kick down, they're kicking, that all these Irish people that are poor, yeah, they get kicked on the ground, they get spit on, yeah, they get everything taken off of them to give to the other, and that makes you a good person, you liberal piece of garbage?
What about the cost that migration brings to the economy? In 2023 alone, we spent...
And that doesn't, and plus you're spending all this money on people that are just coming in with no vetting. Zero vetting.
And over €1 billion looking after asylum seekers and refugees.
Keep in mind, Ireland is the size of a small state, not even a middle state, a small state.
Are you happy with this? Are you going to be happy with this every year? This number of 1 billion growing yearly as we take in more and more asylum seekers.
And the more and more supply and demand.